Well, it's a mystery to him because he has no idea what I brought.
Right.
What other rules do we have?
If you got a burp, lean in.
Well, he's not going to burp.
He's got sparkling water.
Yeah, so he might burp. So.
Yeah, we'll judge you. Nigel judges you harshly.
Gotcha.
Just
on
so
burps.
you know.
All right. Lean into it.
Yes. Always lean into the burps. Other than that, that's about it.
We're just going to see where this goes.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens. You ready?
Should we do this thing?
Yeah, play the open.
Let's go.
Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, promotional products and design. They cover your brand bumper to bumper with graphic design, promo products, and print. See what Dire Oil Graphics can build for you at direoil.com. That's DYEROIL.com.
Yeah, shout out to our voiceover guy, the best Uber driver in Las Vegas. If you're out there, Jonathan, we appreciate you. Welcome to Beers with Nigel. It's a show about beer
and other things
and other stuff, depending on what.
We're actually doing other stuff this time.
This is definitely other stuff. We're not at a brewery, but we are at a place that makes alcohol.
Look, it's taken 6 years
for you to get here.
To finally, we're doing a show about my drinks.
You do love you some bourbon and whiskey, so I just it's not. That's
Look,
not
when you twisted my arm and made me do a show to talk about beer.
Yeah,
I wasn't much of a beer drinker.
Yeah, but look at you now.
Look at me now. I'm a grown up.
But you come back.
I'm a real boy.
We're at J. Rieger and Company Distilling in Kansas City, MO, and welcome to the show, Ryan Maybee.
Thank you.
What's your title, brother?
Co-founder, managing director.
Co-founder, managing director. That's a good title.
Yeah. That's a great title.
Yeah, it's one of many. Actually, I've gone through a bunch of titles over the years.
Do you just feel like it's an annual? You got to mix it up every year, or
yeah, it just kind of comes with the territory.
You get a little bored.
Yeah.
or like most of us, like as an owner, right? It's you just got to do everything.
You do whatever needs to be done, which sometimes requires a shift in strategy, focus, whatever it is.
I have a friend who his title was doer of things.
Exactly. That's good. I like that.
I feel like you could just take the other duties as assigned by necessity.
Yeah. Chosen, voluntold, all those things. Well, let's get into it, Ryan. What's your history in, you guys have been around for a long time. Give us a synopsis of, I know the history of this place. I know Nick does too. Give us a synopsis for those who don't know about J. Rieger.
Sure. Well, J. Rieger and Company has been around as far as the 21st century version of it has been around since 2014. So we just turned 11 last fall. But the history of it goes back, to the 1800s, so the very early days of Kansas City, when Kansas City was really in its formative years down in the West Bottoms. That's where it was founded in 1887 by Jacob Rieger, an immigrant from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And he started the distillery in 1887 right on Genesee Street, right across from where we now have the Livestock Exchange building, in that part of the West Bottoms, which is just one block in, to Missouri from the Kansas side.
Yeah.
And it really blew up into a huge national business. By 1900, his son Alexander took over operation of the company, and we became known as the largest mail-order whiskey house in the United States. So we were shipping our bottles of whiskey from coast to coast.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool history.
That's awesome.
That if you don't know, you don't know. And that's one of the cool things about this space.
I don't think I knew that specific part.
Yeah. You got it when you come into this space, which is a great space. You get to see the whole history of the place. Which
we have a museum now.
Yeah.
Well, this is my first time inside the church.
It is inside the church.
I have partaken of the J. Rieger communion many a time.
I love it.
But I have not been inside the church doors before.
So how'd you get involved with? Because I know Andy. I've known Andy for years, and even before the building was built, we came and did some shenanigan things here and he was always the leader of that.
Yeah.
How'd you get involved with these guys?
Well, I mean, from the very early conception of it. So my background was bars and restaurants. So to kind of pick up where we left off in the early 1900s, the company shut down with Prohibition in 1919.
Right.
So 1919 put an end to the business. But by that point, it had grown to this, really successful company. And Alexander actually built a hotel at 20th and Broadway called the Rieger Hotel. So that was built in 1915, 4 years prior to Prohibition. He expanded the business with that hotel. When Prohibition shut down the distillery, the hotel remained standing, and he sold it a year or two later. It changed names, and ultimately, the whole Rieger history was lost. But fast forward to 2008, I was I was a bartender, bar owner. I owned a bar in the Crossroads called JP Wine Bar and Coffee House that I opened in 2006. And I was looking to do my second concept, which was a speakeasy style craft cocktail bar that was really largely influenced by some bars that I was frequenting out in New York that were just absolutely just changing the game and really changing my perception of what a bar could be and what cocktails were and that kind of thing. And so I was looking for a space in the Crossroads area in around 2008 to do this concept, and found this old hotel building. It was no longer a functioning hotel, but there at the time was a restaurant operating on the first floor in the lobby, and they asked me if I would be interested in opening my concept in the basement, and so I did. And so we opened Manifesto in 2009, in April of 2009, and that was really the spark that led to all of this, ultimately. About a year later, after I opened Manifesto, the restaurant on the first floor went out of business. Not that it was unexpected. I was kind of expecting it, but it did happen sort of suddenly. And I immediately kind of had to scramble to figure out what I was going to do with that space, because I didn't want to lose Manifesto, lose the basement space if somebody else came in and took over the first floor. And so I worked out a deal with the landlord to take over the restaurant space and do a concept. And I wanted to update the space. I wanted to change the name and do a whole thing. Now, I knew that the building had once been an old hotel. I knew that it was called the Rieger Hotel. It still had the original tile floor with the R logo in it. And so I just decided,
That's cool.
I decided that the building was cool. It had a lot of character, and so I wanted to call the restaurant the Rieger and kind of help tell that story of the history of the building. But I didn't really know the story of the history of the building. So I started researching. I started looking for old photos and anything that I could find that I could kind of weave into the concept of my restaurant. And it was in that process that I discovered the history of J. Rieger and Company whiskey, which, having grown up in Kansas City my whole life, having been in the liquor business since I was a teenager, I never knew that Kansas City had a whiskey distillery until that moment. And I had been operating my business in that building for a year, over a year. And that was the first time that I realized that J. Rieger and Company ever existed. And I was just completely obsessed with the idea of researching the history of the brand and making an effort to bring it back.
I think you probably are not alone there. I don't I'm thinking I didn't know about it until you started opening, right? And oh, wait, we had this.
And
we knew there was ties to Prohibition, and obviously we all know the boss crime stories, right?
Yeah, we all know the Prohibition story, during Prohibition, but it was before that was really kind of unknown and kind of had been lost.
And I think that was a whole story for generations,
right?
That didn't know it.
Absolutely.
And Kansas City has a beer history. But again, to your point, until you guys started kind of uncovering the history of this place, nobody really knew. It's kind of interesting, though. You went for the speakeasy cocktail bar thing before it got, everybody.
It was really early. It was early on a national level, not just for Kansas City. It was really early in general. You can really kind of trace the lineage of the modern day speakeasy back to around 2000, 2002, to a place in New York called Milk and Honey, and that was the bar that just changed my life when I first went. I first went there in 2005. It was actually during the time that I was working on opening JP Wine Bar, and I was in New York researching wine bars and looking for inspiration, that kind of thing, and I found Milk and Honey, and it just blew my mind. And so when I opened Manifesto in 2009, there were a handful of bars like that around the country, and we all knew each other because it was such a small niche community. There's this guy in Philadelphia that's doing a thing that's really similar, and there's somebody in Chicago. The Violet Hour just opened in Chicago, and that became one of the most talked about bars in the country. And so Manifesto was very much in the early stages of that whole genre.
Because that was about the time when I was living in New Orleans, and they're speakeasy, that's a whole thing down there, and Tales of the Cocktail, and one of my buddies is So when I first came here in 2010, there was nothing really like that. So you were on the beginning of that trend, which is now
right
trend,
around I think the same year that I opened Manifesto, and maybe right around the same time, it was very close, is when Cure opened in New Orleans, which is now still today considered one of the best bars in the world. Like it's a really amazing place.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was about Milk and Honey that kind of really grabbed your attention? I mean, what was that?
I could tell you. I mean, I could tell you in great detail. I mean, I remember the first experience of going there like yesterday, and it was, over 21 years ago now. And everything about it, the experience of finding out about it, hearing about it, trying to locate it, the fact that you had to make a reservation, but it was only via text message, right? It was so, I don't know, there was just this clandestine nature of it. And then once you do get there, it's this adventure of like finding it and getting there. And then once you do, I'll never forget the moment that, I pushed the button on the door for the first time and really didn't know what to expect, but then the door opened and a curtain was pulled back and I could see the little flickering, candlelight down the bar, and like got hit with I remember the smell of it. Yeah. The smell of like fresh herbs and mint and citrus juices, and it was just beautiful. And the level of hospitality that we were greeted with, and then the quality of the drinks and everything was just absolutely impeccable. Yeah. It was absolutely just so inspiring, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I had to open something like that in Kansas City.
That's great.
I love that the entrepreneurial side of that too, where he's not only impressed and obsessed with the place, but it's how do I do my own? Yeah. Exactly. How do I do this myself with my twist? Right. Did you immediately have kind of your thoughts of how you wanted to do a take?
Yeah, I think that kind of evolves a little bit. You get an idea for a concept, but nobody ever really wants to just like rip someplace off and do exactly that thing if you're a creative individual and you want to give it your own personality. And I think one of the beautiful things about Kansas City and what I love about Kansas City so much is that we do have a bold personality, and we do have, things that I think are, just natural to us here. It's like we kind of have to put our own take on it, right? It can't just be a carbon copy of something from New York or Chicago or somewhere else. And so I think that kind of comes with time, but you want to infuse your own personality into it, and just give it a vibe that people can relate to and makes them want to keep coming back.
What was it? Do you remember, you talked about you don't really drink beer. Do you remember what, because there's some people go both ways, or some people just go one or the other. What was it about like the liquor that you're like, oh, that's my drink of choice? What was it? Do you remember that?
I think that was kind of a process as well. I mean, I love beer. That's not because I don't like beer. Yeah. I mean, my entire life has been dedicated to alcohol. Right. I was a wine sommelier. Oh, wow. I got my sommelier certification in wine in 2003. And so I love all that stuff. At some point, it just became kind of a health choice, just not to drink a bunch of beers every single day. Right. Just to be a little bit more health-minded. Now I do drink whiskey probably every day. But for some reason
that's medicinal though.
But I mean, that works a little bit better for me.
So that was just, I guess, health-wise, but what is it about like whiskeys that you're like, that's really my thing? Because I love me some whiskey, but I'm also a beer guy as well. So, and I can tell you why I love each one. What is it for you that the whiskey thing is your jam?
Well, I'll be honest, like it's not like I was ever really 100% like American whiskey is my thing, right? It never was that until J. Rieger and Company came into the picture. Oh, right. I liked it. I like drinking bourbon. But I also love Scotch, and I was really into mezcal and tequila. Same. And I still am. I still love those spirits. I love all those things. And gin is still, and probably forever will be, the best ingredient for cocktails, right? But when it comes to American whiskey, not only do I really love it and appreciate it for what it is, but as soon as I discovered the history of J. Rieger and Company, we were the largest whiskey house, mail order whiskey house in the United States. Crazy. And so in resurrecting that brand, it had to be whiskey, right? Yeah. We wanted to bring back that identity and bring back what we were doing back then to the best of our ability. Right?
It sounds like you're kind of a history buff.
Oh yeah, it's definitely come that way. Yeah. Like that's definitely happened, especially throughout this process of resurrecting this brand and creating, what we have today, history has played a very, very big role in it.
I think I wonder what you think on this too, because I think that's why people like bars like Manifesto and here, because they want that tie to the history, they want the story that comes with the drink.
Right. Well, I think
there's a connection there. I mean, look, I'm not going to knock dive bars because I love me a dive bar.
Right.
But there's also something about going where there's a story that comes with the vibe.
I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think people, part of going to bars and restaurants and having those experiences, it's about escapism, right?
Yeah.
And, you want to have a different experience every time. You don't want to have the same experience every single time, no matter where you go. Even if you drink the same thing everywhere, even if you're like, well, I'm a gin and tonic guy, right? Or I'm a whiskey on the rocks guy or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you still want to have unique experiences. And it's one of the beauties of being able to own and operate bars and restaurants is that it is a very creative outlet where you can tell a story and you can craft an experience for your guests. And that was part of my motivation from day one with Manifesto, and it's sort of bled over into everything that we do here. One of the things I said early on about Manifesto was I wanted people to have an experience with Manifesto before they ever even walked in the door. Okay. I wanted to create this experience that they had and a connection with Manifesto before they ever even got to the door. And that is a part of the journey. It's a part of that path. And it's, I think that type of thing, people love that. I mean, if you're going to go out and, spend $15 on a cocktail or, you're going to go out and have a nice dinner, like, you want it to feel, whether it's special or just unique or cool or whatever, you want to have an experience.
But you want to tell people about it after.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
the funny thing about Manifesto is it's like it had this life of its own where people were talking about it. You got to go to Manifesto. It was one of the wildest things.
Everyone and here's the funny thing. Like, I never personally referred to it as a speakeasy.
Yeah.
I never called it a speakeasy. Like, when we were getting ready to open or when we did open, I didn't call us a speakeasy, but people did.
Yes.
People attached that to us because they were talking about it. And it always, in the early days, it made me laugh because I'm like, this is absolutely the worst kept secret of like if I'm trying to keep, first off, it's a business that needs to make money. And so I'm not trying to keep it a secret, right? And two, if I was trying to keep it a secret, I'm failing miserably because it's really getting out there.
Were you intentionally not calling it a speakeasy?
No, it wasn't that. Kind of like what we talked about earlier about it being early in that modern speakeasy genre. I wasn't trying to affix a specific identity to it. I wasn't trying to tell people, because really at the time, like, back then, 17, 18 years ago, I think speakeasy, I'm like, well, speakeasy's illegal, right? A speakeasy, speakeasies don't really exist today because it's licensed and it's a legitimate business.
Yeah.
And so, it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors, a little bit of a, kind of a facade to like kind of paint that picture, but I just allowed it to organically kind of become, kind of take on that identity of being a speakeasy. I was never offended by it. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't bother me. I never called myself a mixologist either. I actually hated that title, I'm like, no, I'm not a mixologist. I'm a bartender, I take a lot of pride in just being a bartender. But I also never pushed back. If people want to call me a mixologist, I just kind of rolled with it. I'm like, that's fine. That's great. You're here. You're sitting at my bar. You're having a good time. That's all that matters to me.
Heard.
That's a relatively, I think, though, new, like what, last 20, 25 years?
Very popularized, but around the same time frame of like the whole speakeasy thing, the whole craft cocktail renaissance, that's when mixology, has become kind of a big thing. But the word actually dates back to the 1860s.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I
Did not know that.
Yeah.
The more you know.
We learned something today. It's not, that doesn't happen often.
It doesn't.
And not because there aren't new information. We're just kind of dumb.
Heard. So before we move on, I need something to pair with my whiskey.
Do you need, by chance? We miss you, Bree.
Yeah, that's Bree Burrows, formerly of Big Rip Brewing, who now lives in Denver. She came on the show and just kept wanting to sing the mystery beer song, and we let her, and now she's a permanent part of the show.
Nice.
So I'm going to go to I'm going to let
and
you.
She's brewing again, right? Isn't she an assistant brewer?
Who knows? Probably. I mean, I don't think she can get away from that. I'm gonna let you haven't picked a mystery beer in a long time.
It's been a long time.
This mystery beer bag came from a golf course, as you might imagine.
that makes sense.
Fun fact: the guy who gave me the bag or lifted
that's a beer glass.
That's a glass. He actually owns a bar now. Anthony, he owns a Black Rabbit in Lee Summit.
Oh,
I
didn't know he was the owner of that. Oh, hey, look at this.
Yeah. Oh, it's a KC beer.
KC Beer Co. Double IPA. Oh, the font's too big.
We normally play the game called Guess the ABV because but he's already seen it because shout out to KC Beer for the big fonts.
I do love KC Beer Co. We work with them, as you probably know.
I need to hip you to that because they do the whiskey and cigar. Yeah, and it's on Mondays where you can actually get out.
Oh,
yeah. So we're gonna have to get you in one of those.
Yeah, so we do those tastings with them, but beyond that, like we actually ended up reviving an historic Kansas City beer brand.
Yeah.
Because we're in the Heim Brewery building, which you can actually see the old brewery like right behind me over here. And so in that process, we actually brought back the Heim beer, but it's made by KC Beer.
I forgot that.
I hadn't heard that.
You can only have it here, right?
Right.
Upstairs.
Well, on occasion they'll do a limited edition bottling of it and put it out in the market, but it's not a lot.
Really, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's very limited. And I fully encourage that. I think it's great because it helps kind of tell our story and spread the word. But otherwise, everything that they make is specifically made for us that's on draft here at the distillery. So if you visit us here at the distillery, we do have beer. We have one beer.
Yes.
It's Heim Lager.
Yes.
Made by KC Beer Co. And it's on draft at all of our bars here.
We'll have to have one of those.
How cool is that, though, to unearth and bring back another KC,
one.
Another lost KC brand.
Completely unplanned. It just
How did that happen?
Again, same thing, like by accident. Like when we first started J. Rieger and Company in 2014, we were renting the warehouse back here from John McDonald, so formerly founder CEO of Boulevard. So he was our landlord. He owned all this property here. And,
wow.
We were renting the warehouse from him. Not really knowing that at the time, this building was formerly the bottling plant for Heim beer, and I didn't really know at the time like the scale of Heim and just how big it was. I mean, it was bigger than J. Rieger and Company. It was a huge national beer brand in the 1800s, and so once we had the opportunity to buy this building from John and then expand our operation into this building and open up the visitor center here. Well, we got to bring back Heim. We got to bring back the Heim beer.
That's really cool.
See how it all ties in. I do remember the old.
He's a storyteller. I don't know if you know this.
Yeah. I do remember the old warehouse years ago. The homebrew club I'm in, ZZ Hops. We had a meeting.
ZZ Hops.
Yeah, and and we had a meeting over there, and that's the first time I met Andy. And Andy will try to get you drunk. I'm just going to call it.
Absolutely.
He was like, "You want to try this? Do you want to try that?" I'm like, "Sure."
And Nigel never says no.
Right.
If you're going to be hospitable, I should,
Well, you don't want to be rude.
No, you don't want to be rude.
So it would be a little weird if you came to a distillery and like, no, I'm not drinking.
Yeah, that's super weird. So let's talk about the space.
Yeah.
The visitor center. When did that come to? Like, hey, let's buy this building and go crazy.
Well, for one thing, like everything, when we first started in 2014, just in the warehouse here, we did not have a bar. We didn't have regular tours. There wasn't a public-facing aspect to it. Mm-hmm. We kind of, you see a lot of micro distilleries pop up these days, and they're always sort of like bar-facing, right, public-facing places that you can go to and taste their stuff.
Right.
We kind of went the reverse approach, where our focus was making whiskey,
right,
making a product and getting it out into the world, getting it into the zeitgeist of other bars, putting it on their shelf and putting it on their cocktail menus, and liquor stores carrying us. So we weren't trying initially to get people to come down here. We were just making booze and putting it out into the world. Yeah. But it grew a lot faster than either Andy or I expected or planned for. It grew really fast. And so by 2017, we were having to think, okay, well, what's the next stage? What's the next step here? Like, how do we grow? How do we expand? Because that little warehouse building was not going to last. Yeah. Like, it wasn't going to be enough for us. And it's funny because when we first moved into there, we actually originally had a site in the Crossroads that was about a third of that size. And, I thought this one was like, it would take us a lifetime to grow into it. And it was just like in the blink of an eye. we were outgrowing it. And so that's when we had to like have some serious conversations with John about taking over this building, because he was like kind of starting to do some rehab work on it. He had like repaired the roof and done some things, and he had some ideas for what to do here in this building. But we were like, look, we're onto something here. Yeah. We're growing, and we either need to like buy this from you now and expand our operation into this building and anchor this neighborhood that you really want to see, thrive, or we're going to have to look elsewhere. And so that's kind of when that happened.
Yeah, it's interesting that the warehouse, as you said, you thought you could outgrow it, because when you walked in there, it looked big. There was a lot of barrels in there.
Well, but, you should see it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When we first launched in 2014, we had 100 barrels of whiskey, which I was stoked to own 100 barrels of whiskey. Yeah. I felt like a badass. I'm like, holy shit, I own 100 barrels of whiskey. That's awesome. And they were just laying on the floor.
Yeah.
And there were no racks, nothing like that.
Yeah.
It was very sparse. Right now, we've got 4,000 barrels packed into that building.
Oh shit! Okay.
Right. So yeah, I mean, back then it's kind of hard to predict, like, how things are going to go. Like once you start, you can try to plan for it the best you can. You can try to anticipate, but you never really know exactly like how it's going to take off. And so we kind of had to adapt.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave the building talk for a second.
Okay.
Because when you started, why you waited for things to happen, you were putting blends out into the market, and did you have any vision, or did the vision match what happened? I guess obviously you had a vision, but I mean, did you have any idea how that would take off and get to where you are now?
I don't think either Andy or I anticipated how fast it would grow and how big it would grow.
I mean, because I feel like when your first batch of blends came out, everybody was already around the metro just bonkers about it.
Just blown
the story was
away.
everywhere.
Like, absolutely. And this was and also the timing was really interesting. And I love the timing of it, because it was in October of 2014. Now, if you remember October of 2014 in Kansas City, there was a lot of really cool shit happening. Primarily the Royals.
Right.
Like, I'm a diehard, lifelong Royals fan, and they made the playoffs for the first time in 29 years.
Right.
And, like, we launched our brand, during their World Series run.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. So it's all a blur. But it was also, we launched our brand on October 30th of 2014, which just so happens to also have been the 100-year, the centennial anniversary for Union Station, which actually Union Station plays a role in the history of J. Rieger and Company. And so there was that connection. And so there are all these things, the synergy that happened. But our business plan, like our pro forma for the first year, within a few weeks, we had to throw it out the window. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like,
the story every business owner wishes they could tell.
It was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's happening.
Yeah.
And we also launched with no employees. Zero. It was me and Andy, and we had no employees yet. We were, dumping the barrels ourselves and filling the bottles and, affixing, hand applying the labels, and we couldn't keep up. And we just could not keep up.
Well, what do you think? What do you attribute that? I mean, other than the timing, obviously, with the Royals and the way the city reacted to that, which was crazy. Because I think, well, Nigel didn't live here then, but we are all of the age that we remember the first time.
Sure.
What do you think attributed that, like, made that story just latch on?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. I don't know if you can really attribute to any one thing. But one, I think the authenticity in the story is something that everybody can connect with and get excited about.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just some new startup brand. Like, okay, that would be cool, but there's this history, dating back to the founding of Kansas City and its in its formative years. And so this history is just so amazing. But then you can also attribute some of it to by 2014, Manifesto had been open for 5 years, was already nationally renowned. The Rieger restaurant had been open for 4 years and was a James Beard semifinalist. Like, we were, Manifesto and the Rieger were very, very popular. Like, they were really special places that anchored the kind of cocktail and culinary scene in KC at that time. And so, branching off of that success and that notoriety really helped us spread the word really fast. And it really, I think we underestimated that from the beginning. I thought we did our due diligence with, like, trying to figure out, okay, how much we're going to sell and how we'll grow. But but we way underestimated it. And there's also just that civic pride in Kansas City that was happening. I think right around that time, Charlie Hustle had just kind of started. Right. You know, it had the heart logo, like it had just come out. Yeah. Right, and the streetcar was being built. The streetcar was under construction, and the KCADC had just been formed, and it was just like this like groundswell of like civic pride in Kansas City, and we just like popped into that like right at the perfect time.
The downtown redevelopment had just happened, all those things. Yeah.
I was telling Nick about you talk about no employees, and I remember doing a working tour,
a bottling party.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
that's crazy to me.
Yeah, we had bottling parties.
Yeah, so I remember bottling a bunch of gin and labeling the boxes and doing the whole thing. But again, it was one of those things that, you know, when you guys first came into the market, you know, there was excitement because it's Kansas City. Right. It's Kansas City whiskey. You know what I'm saying? And for that to, there's no L.A. whiskey or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's Kansas City. They latch on to things that. What's the whole funny thing is, like, you know, most people, there's not very many cities where people wear shit that says Kansas City and they live here.
Right. You know what I'm saying? You're going to see more of those in the airport. That's the joke, right?
Yeah. So it's a great story. I want to get to, because again, thinking back to the old days, you know, before you had 4,000 barrels over there.
Good Lord.
The barrels themselves, there's a whole story about the barrels. Where you guys getting, kind of give us an idea. I know the story, but I think it's a great story to tell about.
Oh, you're talking about just like our regular barrels of whiskey that we make, like our bourbon and rye.
Yeah, and
so if it doesn't matter where you are in the country. Anybody can make bourbon or rye whiskey. It doesn't have to come from Kentucky. That's a myth that gets kind of spread around, but. There are rules for making bourbon and rye whiskey, and specifically bourbon has the most strict of regulations. But one of those regulations is that it has to be aged in a brand new charred American oak barrel, right? Or container, as it's legally worded. But the majority so you hear about American oak barrels being used all over the world. They're used in Scotch whiskey production. They're used in the Caribbean for rum. They're used for wines in Australia and Spain and Argentina and Chile and everywhere, right? American oak barrels are ubiquitous. Like 80% of all American oak barrels used anywhere in the world come from Missouri.
Yeah.
That the vast majority are produced right here in Missouri, and the largest cooperage, the largest barrel cooperage in the world, is here in Missouri in Lebanon, called ISC, Independent Stave. Yeah, and that's who we buy our barrels from, obviously. So they kind of come from like our backyards, a couple hours from here.
That's pretty cool. You know, just on the beer side of it, you know, we have down at Transparent, we've got several of your barrels that we've been using, and our annual beer release. I should have brought you one. It's a barrel aged barley wine that sits in Rieger barrels, and then we had it's a funny story. So we put out 4 beers for our anniversary last August, and we forgot there was a beer sitting in one of y'all's barrels.
Oh yeah,
25 months. 25 months, and it's just our regular stout that we.
I want to taste that.
Yeah, I'll make sure you get some. It turned out it's still 6.9%, but it took on that barrel character. It's just it's pretty incredible.
Probably aged in one of our bourbon casks, or rye.
But yeah, I think it's a bourbon. Yeah, but it's pretty fabulous. Yeah, you know, and I give it because you know, you think barrel aged beer and you think high ABV,
right?
And this one's not. It just took every bit of that barrel character and was like. Oh yeah, I'm still 6.9%.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I should have brought some. What was I thinking?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're fired.
So back to the building. This was a major undertaking.
Huge. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, the first time I came in here, I was like, who in the hell? Because it's pretty ambitious. How did this whole visitor center? I mean. It's just amazing. You haven't even been through it yet.
No.
When we walk around, you'll be like, oh shit, somebody with this well thought out. Give us kind of a synopsis of how this even happened.
Well, you know, we were already here. We were already in the warehouse, and so once we got the deal worked out with John to purchase the building, then it was like, okay, well now we're really getting serious because we're talking about all told, the whole campus, if you want to call it that, is about 100,000 square feet. Like there's a lot of space here.
Yeah.
And you're right when you say it's ambitious. Some might even say crazy.
Yeah.
Like wildly ambitious. For a couple of reasons. One, we're still in a very, very, very underdeveloped neighborhood.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of in a weird, hidden, hard to get to geographic location of Kansas City. Right? And so it's not like we're going to be able to just open the doors and there's people walking down the street that are going to pop in and check us out.
Right.
So like we had to make a destination.
Yeah.
And so I think that actually the nature of like where we are located actually kind of it gave us, it's like we either go conservative, we go safe, right, and go slowly and see how it works, or let's go really, really big and make it such an attraction that people have to come down here, right? And that's where we went with it. And so we just said, let's get crazy. Let's just throw the wildest ideas at the wall and see what sticks. And we had a lot of room to play with. I mean, and it did happen in stages. We didn't necessarily open the whole thing right exactly at the same time. The big impetus for the expansion was the growth of production.
Yeah.
Right? By being able to move our production into this building, we were able to add a column still. We were able to add a dedicated gin still. We were able to basically multiply our ability to lay down barrels by 5. About 5 times more. We were increasing our volume by 5x. And so if you're talking about long-term growth, for building the brand and thinking of ourselves as a national or even global brand, that was a big part of the equation, like making sure that we could produce enough product that could help fuel that growth down the line. And then aside from that, it's giving people a reason to want to come check us out, making sure that we're open 7 days a week, and we have daily tours where you can learn about the history of the brand, hear the story, taste the product, see how we make it, and then have the bar experiences as well. But it's a very unique arrangement in the sense that, we don't just have one tasting room, we've got 4 bars. Right, and each bar is unique in its own right, and they all have different cocktail menus and different vibes, and so it gives people a lot of different reasons to want to come down here and get the experience.
It's become some people's favorite bar. Like this is where they go.
Yeah, this is the one I go to. I mean, as a guy that started out as a bartender, did you even imagine anything like this?
No, not initially. I mean, my dream was Manifesto. Like that was like that.
You felt like that was your peak.
Like that was that was it. And it's funny you use the word peak because I use the word peak because I used to be a climber way back in the days, and there's a kind of a not a theory, but sort of an anomaly, kind of known as a false summit, where you think you see the summit. Right,
yeah.
And then you that kind of drives you to like set that goal. Like, okay, then you get there, but then when you get to that point, you realize you're not at the top.
Yeah,
and like, oh wait, the summit's still up that way, and that happens like several times. It's kind of how Manifesto and the Rieger was for me. It was like kind of this like sense of a false summit where I had this like really big dream that I felt like I was gonna, I had to dedicate my whole life to doing it, and then making it happen and realizing, oh wait, now there's more. Right? Well, then what? So that's kind of how this all, came together. I think Andy would obviously describe it in his own words, but I think a lot of that it's the same thing for him because his background wasn't in hospitality or booze or anything like mine. His background he lived in Dallas, Texas when I first met him, and his background was in finance. And so I don't think either one of us really fully understood at the time where this was going to go, and it's been quite a journey.
I think it was cool that he, with the last name Rieger, it's like, hey, we should resurrect this brand. You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of a,
Well, I said that to him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I had just opened the restaurant. I opened the Rieger restaurant and discovered the history of the whiskey brand, and I started kind of weaving the whiskey branding into the concept of the restaurant. And I had the intent of bringing back the brand, and I didn't even know Andy existed. He just did not know him, and he came in. He heard about what I was doing at the Rieger, and he came in one night to introduce himself unannounced, and I was You know,
oh crap! Is he carrying a cease and
like,
desist?
I literally had that thought, and you ask him about this story, he'll tell you that I was a little standoffish at the very beginning because I was like, oh shit, is he going to sue me? Is like, oh, you know what I mean?
Using my name.
But no, it wasn't like that. He was like really supportive of it, and he came back the very next night, and then on that second night, I sat down and talked with him a little bit longer, and I was like, I'm going to bring back Rieger whiskey, and I think you should be a part of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That should be like a documentary or a movie or something. Yeah. Lifetime.
I mean, did it just kick off kind of after that?
No, absolutely not.
No, we disappeared for 7 years.
I did not talk to him after that first meeting. We didn't talk for 1 year. He went back to Dallas, and I was running the restaurant, which is not an easy task.
Right.
You know, because I went from Manifesto to
I've
Rieger.
never heard that before.
It's a big undertaking, and I also did it on like a shoestring budget. You know, I didn't really have any working capital, and so I kind of had to make sure that it cash flowed like right from the onset. And so I was running the restaurant in Manifesto, but I kept working on researching the history of J. Rieger & Company and working on the concept for bringing it back to an extent. And so I called him 1 year later. I'll never forget it because it was like right around Christmas. And I called him up and I asked him if he was going to come back to Kansas City for the holidays. He said yes. I'm like, great. I want to take you out to lunch. I want to talk to you. And so we went out to lunch on Christmas Eve of 2011. And I put the first draft of a business plan in front of him. And I said, I'm going to do this. Really think you should be involved. That was a year after we met, and you know it still didn't just take off. It was a process, like getting to a place where we felt good about moving forward and like really doing this full time. And obviously for him, it's quite a lifestyle change.
Yeah. At
the time, you know, to like he was pretty young. You know, I think he was 24 at that point, and you know, just kind of starting his career. And so to make that leap to like bail on his career that he went to school for and move back to Kansas City from Dallas, I think that was a big commitment, you know, for him. And so it took a while to get to that point. So that was 2011. You know, we didn't launch until 2014. So you know, there was a lot that went on during that time.
What did you really have to work on? Because you know, look, we sit down with business plans and you know, you go to the whiteboard and all the ideas are genius, right?
Sure.
I mean,
all of them.
You write that stuff down and you're like, it's all going to work and be beautiful. Do you remember kind of what you had to tweak? And
we tweaked almost everything. I mean, almost everything. But the planning of it was really, really complicated, you know, from a legal standpoint, you know, the licensing and the permitting and regulatory stuff that's involved.
They don't make that easy.
No, not well, because you've also got, with anything alcohol related, you've got federal regulations, state regulations, and then local regulations that you have to deal with, and permitting and all that stuff as well. So then you also got to raise money. You know, we definitely needed to raise money to do this, and in order to do that, you've got to have a pretty clear vision about what the money's going to be used for, and at least the plan for the first year or two. And then there was the product. It's like, how do we know how to make whiskey? You know, I'll admit I was a pretty awesome bartender at the time and a pretty awesome, you know, restaurateur at the time, but I didn't know how to make whiskey. I mean, you know, that was quite a leap. Yeah. So it took some time to kind of figure out all those things.
Why was it important to you? Because obviously you went a year without talking to him.
Yeah.
You're like, I need you to be involved. Why was that important to you?
Well, I'll say to you the same thing I said to him. I said it's your name, it's your legacy, it's not mine.
Yeah.
You know, and I would say now that I think it is largely a very big part of my legacy, but I don't know, man. I think it was it was a conscious thing.
Yeah.
Like conscience thing.
Yeah.
Like I felt like this is you.
Yeah.
He was the last living Rieger family member.
Yeah.
The last one.
Yeah.
Right? He had just lost his dad, you know, recently at that point. And I don't know. I felt a duty. And I did say to him at one point in that lunch, I was like, look, at bare minimum, I need your blessing. I need to make sure that if I move forward with this, that you're okay with it.
Yeah.
But more than that, I want your support and I want you to be involved.
Sounds like you kind of took a personal ownership of the story, kind of as a caretaker,
right,
to that family story.
Yeah.
Again, it should be a movie or a documentary or something. It's just, you know, looking back, Because you said 11 years old now?
We've officially been in business for over 11 years now.
I mean,
over 11 years.
Do you guys ever reminisce and look back and be like, what the fuck did we do?
Every day.
So what's the footprint of a Rieger like in the market? I know you guys are multi-state. How big is it?
We have a little bit of international distribution.
Okay.
It's not a lot, and it doesn't actually like have a big impact on the bottom line yet, but we are, it's brand building, right?
Yeah.
So, we've done some distribution in like, Denmark and France and South Africa and Hong Kong and a little bit in the Caribbean, a little bit in Canada, but like all that is like just a sliver of like our actual business. We are in 30 states in the United States. Of those 30 states, Missouri and Kansas combined accounts for like 75% of our total revenue. And then the greater Kansas City area, across the state line is probably 75% of that. I mean, so it is still very, very much anchored right here in our backyard. And that's one thing that I try to remind other business owners all the time too, is like you might get real excited about growing really fast, and it might sound really sexy to be like shipping, pallets overseas and all that. It's really super cool.
Yeah.
Do not ever lose sight of your backyard. You got to own your backyard. And also that job is never done, of like building your brand right in your backyard and being really, really fully immersed and integrated into the culture and fabric of Kansas City is so important to us, and that job is just never done.
Why do you think that is? What makes it such an important part of your branding?
Well, for one, it's right. I mean, the Kansas City whiskey, is a specific type of whiskey.
Right.
Like it is a whiskey like you can't get anywhere else, right? And then you also like consider that civic pride that we talked about, right? And how much people love Kansas City, and we wouldn't be able to do all these cool things if it weren't for the support and enthusiasm that we get from the local community. You can't ever take that for granted. And so even while we are distributed in 30 states, and there are some wins and losses there, we are somewhat of a regional kind of tourist attraction. Like we get people coming down from Omaha and Des Moines and around this region. It's just so important to make sure that we don't ever lose that charm and feel of the Kansas City pride. It's just vital.
And I feel like you guys are probably the, for all the other ones who have popped up, the little, that are doing their own spirits and things like that, they've probably looked at you guys and, wow, it's in Kansas City. We can do that as well. I mean, it's kind of like you guys like the OGs.
Yeah. Which is ironic. I mean, if you seriously think about it, like opening in 2014, we were the first distillery in Kansas City, Missouri proper since Prohibition.
Crazy.
Which is really crazy to think. Now, when we launched, there was Union Horse, or it was at the time it was called Dark Horse out in Lenexa. But like in Kansas City or in KCMO, there wasn't anything else, and now there's quite a few.
Yeah, there's quite a few. But if I was a distiller, I'd be like, those are my distilling daddies, if you will.
I would never say that. You can say that.
I feel like you need a T-shirt so you can walk into the others that just says daddy.
Right.
We do have podcast daddies. So
we do. We do have podcast
and
daddies.
we have podcast, what we call them?
Podcast children?
Podcast
offspring?
Children. Yeah, good Lord. So what do you guys do beyond this? I mean, how do you improve? So Nick's never been here. You come like in the summer when you can go outside and they got the outdoor bar. It's a whole vibe. I'm like, where do you go from here? I mean, especially here in this space. I mean, this is something unique in Kansas City.
Yeah, and it's working. It's working really well. I mean, this space is continually becoming more known, and we're getting the word out. And I mean, I think we get close to. We just did the numbers for last year. We get close to 200,000 guests per year. That's a lot, especially considering where we are, right, geographically. But we want to keep building on that, but the real growth and the real long-term goal is to expand that distribution and make Rieger a household name outside of Kansas City, ultimately. Yeah. And that's a very, very, very hard uphill task that we have to stay we just have to grind that out.
Yeah.
And it's hard, but it's a very competitive industry. And it's tough for a small independent brand to compete with the big guys out there. But that's the long-term goal. Let's maintain this where it is. Let's make sure that we are an anchor in the Kansas City community and a place that people are proud of and want to send their friends and out-of-town guests to, and always offer and deliver that really great hospitality experience. But this is our showroom. Right, long term for the bigger thing, and that bigger thing is that bottle of Rieger Kansas City whiskey, that bottle of Rieger bourbon or Rieger gin on the back bar and on cocktail menus when you go anywhere else, when you go on vacation or you go visit family in other cities, like seeing Rieger right next to Jack Daniels, or right next to Bacardi or Tito's or whatever it might be. Like that's the long term play.
What is the pitch? Because Kansas City whiskey is different, right? So when you go when you try for the world domination, and you're going outside of Kansas City, what is that story you're hoping, or have you found out what catches on?
Well, ultimately, what catches on is pretty simple and straightforward, and it just takes a lot of focus and determination, and that's quality and value. Right, so it's got to be good quality, because people might give you a shot once if they're intrigued by the story or they like the bottle or whatever it might be. But if it's not really good, they're going to probably resort right back to buying their go-to, the stuff that they're comfortable with after that. So it has to be very, very good. The quality of the product has to be up there. And then the value. Like I said, it's a very competitive industry, when you're dealing with these other brands, and it's hard for a small independent business like us to put the level of quality out there for the price point that a lot of the bigger brands can. But if we're being competitive and delivering a really high quality product at a price that is affordable, then that puts us in a better position to succeed and win over more customers.
This is a totally random question, as most of my questions are. Do you have a spirit that you guys do that's your favorite, and what's your go-to cocktail?
Yeah. It's always hard to pick a favorite, I could bullshit you and say I don't have a favorite. I love them all equally, but that's actually not true.
Like children,
listen, we pick favorites. It's fine.
No, I mean, look, my favorite is the Kansas City whiskey, and that is the one that we started with, because that is the one that we spent 2 years meticulously, developing, when we could have just bought barrels of bourbon, from someplace else and source them at the very beginning, just like everyone does, and that's an industry standard practice, and there's nothing wrong with it. We could have just bought bourbon, put it in a bottle, and said, here you go, here's the story on the brand, but we didn't do that. We took a much harder path in creating what we feel is a really good representation of what J. Rieger and Company was making before Prohibition. And that is the Kansas City whiskey. That blend is a blend of 3 different whiskeys. So it's straight bourbon, straight rye, light corn whiskey, and then just with 2% 15-year Oloroso sherry added to it. So that was a really common process back then, blending sherry in very small amounts into American whiskey. That's been lost. Like, nobody was doing it. And so we resurrected that style. And it's that style that goes into our bottle that's labeled as Kansas City whiskey. And it doesn't just, when you see that label, it doesn't just mean we're a Kansas City brand. The Kansas City whiskey refers to the recipe.
What's the thing?
Well, we're calling it that now. But historically, it was a very widespread practice in all American whiskey production, right? It was a very, very common thing that just got lost with Prohibition. And we brought it back, and we were granted permission by the federal government to call it Kansas City whiskey. And so that is not only our, first product right out of the gates, but I think it best embodies and embraces the Rieger story and history. And it's our flagship, man. It's still our number 1 selling whiskey.
Delightful.
Right? And that's what you guys are drinking.
Yeah, it's delightful.
It's fantastic.
Your favorite cocktail? Or your go-to? No, I mean, not your favorite. You go to some place, or you're here. What do you?
My first go-to that I would tell you would be a horse feather, which has roots in the Kansas City area, originally from Lawrence, Kansas, and we've adopted that drink as kind of our signature serve for the Kansas City whiskey. And so it's an easy drinking, highball, refreshing whiskey-based cocktail that's really, really wonderful. And it's also easy to replicate. It's easy to make. It's easy to teach other bartenders to make it. It's not too complex. If I take that out of the equation, it's really, really, really hard for me to pick one, because being a bartender, I just love cocktails so much. Yeah. But just a simple old fashioned, or if it's rye, Manhattan. And I do really strongly lean towards making sure that you're using a true rye whiskey in a Manhattan instead of bourbon. But then I'm also the best spirit ever created for cocktails is gin. And there's just nothing hits quite like a perfectly crafted gin martini.
Why do you say that? What is it about gin that just does it for you?
Well, it's the botanical makeup. It's the juniper, and like our gin is 5 botanicals. You can put an endless number of botanicals in there if you want it, but we make a really classic London dry style with juniper, coriander seed, angelica root, licorice root, and orange peel. But if you look historically, like in cocktail history. So the cocktail was an American invention. The cocktail was an American innovation. And the first cocktail book ever published was in 1862. And that led to a wave of books, like that being published up until Prohibition. And between the 1860s and Prohibition, roughly probably 75% of all the cocktail recipes in those books were gin. Almost all gin based, right? By the early 1900s, you started to see some American whiskeys creep in. People really didn't use Scotch in cocktails. There was a little bit of brandy and cognac, but not much. Like people generally like to drink those things, kind of on their own.
Straight up,
There is a cool history of brandy cocktails, but it's not like real widespread. Gin is built for cocktails. Like, how many people do you know that just want to like sip on a gin neat, like you're sipping on that whiskey?
I don't know that I ever have.
Right, because it's built for cocktails, and so like I just love gin cocktails. I love a perfect gin martini. There's just nothing like it. I love the fact that the Negroni has become kind of a ubiquitous cocktail everywhere. And now you can
come back.
It's come back in such a huge way, and not just for like the craft cocktail set, but like everywhere. Like I can get a pretty decent Negroni at most places these days, which is awesome. And if you had asked me that 20 years ago, I'd be like, no fucking way. Like, no, nobody can do.
I had no idea that cocktails were an American thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that actually makes sense. I mean,
it does. It does. I guess it's not surprising, but I had no idea.
So taking spirits and mixing spirits with sugar, citrus, lemon juice, other ingredients like that existed as far back as probably the 1600s in Europe and other places, but they were served in punch bowls. They were served large format, and everyone would just sit around and like just drink from the punch bowl. That's how spirits were first combined with those other ingredients. Yeah. The individual serving cocktail that has now become what we know it today originated here.
That's like the punch I make every year. We call it Freedom.
Right.
It's based on the Fish House punch from Washington's inaugural party.
Dude, absolutely. I mean, classic Fish House punch. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Got it from our friend Seth at Libations.
Yeah. Oh, I love Seth. He's great.
Yeah. So he dug that out of a history book and showed me the recipe, and it's become a family thing.
Legit.
I do every year. 4th of July.
I do the same thing. I don't do Fish House punch, but I love making large batch punches for parties.
It's just fun.
It's so much fun. And the holidays, it's a great tradition of mine in the holidays. I love doing. You do the big block ice, the whole thing. Yeah.
And I like reminding Nigel too because of his British roots. That,
right.
We serve freedom.
we serve freedom by the punch bowl.
By the punch bowl. Do you bartend much at all?
Not a lot. I mean, very rarely these days. And so on the rare opportunities that I do get a chance to do it, I make the most of it.
I'm going to say, I feel like
do you still feel at home behind a bar?
I mean, you got to knock a little rust off, and especially kind of depends on where, because there are times that I bartend in other bars that I've never even been into before.
Oh, no shit.
But like if I'm traveling, to promote the brand, I might end up doing like a guest bartending shift, like a hosted happy hour type thing, and it might be at some random bar that I've never been to, and I got to like where am I? Like, where's this thing? You know what I mean? So it's a little bit anxiety-inducing, and you feel a little discombobulated. But then once in a while, I get to get behind my own bar here, like down at the Hey Hey Club. That's how I celebrated my birthday last month.
Nice.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Brought in a bunch of other bartenders from around the country, and we just threw a massive party down there, and we all got behind the bar and got to make drinks.
That's awesome. That's
cool.
It was fun. But I don't really get to all that often anymore.
Well, I mean, you're surrounded by it, so here we are.
I mean, you are making your own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like that's a good trade-off.
Right.
That's decent.
Awesome. Dude.
We do guest beer tending sometimes.
Yeah.
I just try to tell people ahead of time it's going to be a bad pour.
Yeah. Right.
Well, dude, we appreciate you coming on. I know we're cutting into a sales meeting.
Oh, no. So, I'm good, man. This is a blast.
Well, look, he can't hit world domination if he doesn't get his sales team ready to go.
That's right.
I mean, I feel like they probably know what they're doing at this point. I mean,
we got a badass team, man. Like across the board, we've got a lot of great people here.
What's how many employees you guys have?
Around 120 now.
No shit.
From
zero.
2 guys with 0 employees to 120.
No, from
in 11 years.
From the working tour.
Right.
Are you going to bring the working tours back?
You'd be surprised how many people ask for that.
Oh, absolutely. Dude.
I would imagine now at this stage of the business, your HR department says no.
Yeah.
There's some attorneys somewhere that say, don't do that.
Right.
But you're right. People would totally be like,
yes.
And I told.
Well, you could do it at the brewery. You could do canning parties, and people would totally be in.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if there's booze involved, I mean, I told the story where we were at the end of the bottling of the gin, and there was the basketball goal that was in there.
Right.
And then we were shooting the ball, and Andy was like, I might have been kind of lit. And he was like, you make this shot, I'll give you another bottle. Somehow,
and
swish.
Nothing but net.
I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier.
It's like drunken pool.
Yeah, if you're playing pool, the angles make sense. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
A little bit of social lubrication, you're good to go.
Right.
So, but dude, we appreciate you coming on.
Man, thanks for sitting down with us.
That's my pleasure.
Yeah,
and having us out at church.
And you finally get to.
I finally get in.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell you've been doing with
your
life,
I've been
bro.
a heathen. I haven't been to church.
Well, normally he won't go to Kansas. Apparently, he didn't want to come to the.
This isn't Kansas.
I'm talking about your traveling habits. Okay.
Well, that's true. I don't like to drive.
Dude, you and I are in the same boat. I live right at the top of the hill. I might put 2,000 or 3,000 miles a year on my car.
Really?
See? Yeah. We're there.
That's separated at birth. So where do people find you guys on social media?
At Rieger Co. And that's like all of our social media handles, Instagram being the main one, and we're on Facebook. We do have a TikTok channel, I believe. I've heard about it. I have not been on there, but I think we have that. But yeah, it's all at Rieger Co.
Right. And where are we located? If people want to come see you guys.
We are in the East Bottoms of Kansas City, Missouri, at 2700 Gwinnett, right across the railroad tracks from Knuckleheads, if that helps.
I think it does for a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people. Nick, where can they find us?
You can find us on, man, it's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, I told you.
I know, 25 has been a long, weird year, and now we're 26. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all your favorite podcast apps. Nigel does the socials. We're on the Book of Faces, the Grams.
Yeah.
Is there a TikTok of us?
No, God, no.
We used to be on the formerly known as Twitter.
Artist formerly known as, nobody uses Twitter anymore.
We're done with that.
Because I can't X you, so there's that.
No, it just sounds weird.
Can't X you.
Yeah. I can tweet you, but I can't X you.
I'm going to X you. That sounds like you're going to erase them.
You're DMX.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger just show up and you're erased. That's what that sounds like.
You're DMX at that point. X is going to give it to you.
On that note, good night, folks.
Good night.
You've been listening to Beers with Nigel, a show about beer and other stuff, hosted by Nigel Woodbury and that other guy, Nick Parker. Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dyer Oil Graphics, providing bumper-to-bumper graphic design, promo products, and print services. Find them at dyeroil.com. Beers with Nigel is a proud member of the Fredcast Network and is available on all of your favorite podcast flavors. Find Beers with Nigel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and ask Alexa to play the Beers with Nigel podcast.